Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here at my next YouTube video, and this is going to be the first of a new series of videos. I'm going to explain it in a moment, but I'm just going to say right now, it's going to be a series of Star Wars videos, basically. 6 videos, so that probably already gives you the hint of what it's going to be. There's 6 Star Wars films, 6 main Star Wars films, 6 videos. I'm going to be reviewing all 6 of them, and I'm going to start off with Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Now, the reason I'm doing this is mainly because my channel is first and foremost an Avatar channel, but because of the whole situation with Nick not wanting to say anything about Book 2, all the merchandise and stuff like that coming out later, like a few months from now, there's not really much to talk about right now. So at least for the next week or two, I'm not probably gonna have many, if any, Avatar videos unless some news comes out. I know in probably 2 weeks' time I'll have a review of the May Free Comic Book Day comic, but until then I'm not really expecting any Avatar news. It's just the situation we're in, and I definitely want to keep my YouTube channel going, and because I've already done Transformers reviews, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles reviews, I wanted to do one of my other fandoms that I'm into. I wouldn't say I'm in the fandom, but I really do enjoy Star Wars. It's always been something I've had an interest in. So I'm going to get straight into my review of Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. But first of all, I think it's probably important that I get out of the way the main point about myself as a Star Wars fan. And just getting straight into it, I prefer the prequel movies to the original movies. I prefer Episode 1, 2, and 3 to 4, 5, and 6. And it's not because I have nostalgia from my childhood having seen Episode 1, 2, and 3 first, because I didn't. I saw Episode 4, 5, and 6 before I saw 1, 2, and 3. When I was 5, 6, I specifically remember loving those movies, them being 3 of my favourite movies of all time. The original 3 before Episode 1 even came out. And, when they came out in the cinemas, I watched the new movies when they came out. So nostalgia has never been my thing. I'm never going to be the one to just like something just because it's old, it means something from my childhood. I'm always analysing things. That's my style. I like these Episode 1, 2, and 3 because I honestly find them to be better movies. I enjoy Episode 1, 2, and 3 more. Not that I don't enjoy Episode 4, 5, and 6. I just think Episode 1, 2, and 3 has a lot of things going on that I like in movies for myself. So that's that out of the way. And I'm going to get straight into my review of Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Episode 1, I really enjoy this movie. This is probably one of the ones where I turn it on and I'm like, this is amazing. I really enjoy it. It's fun in parts. It also has the drama and stuff like that. And it's just an exciting movie for me. I just enjoy watching every second of this. It's also one of the movies where before I turn it on, I always have this doubts in my mind because of what most of the Star Wars fandoms say about this movie. The whole thing of Jar Binks is in it, he ruins the movie, there's politics in it that's really boring, the battle droids are stupid and all this, and I always go into this movie thinking I'm not going to like it as much as that, because if so many people dislike this movie, there must be something wrong with me that I've actually enjoyed this movie in the past. But then I actually turn it on, go to watch it, and I just really like it. And I'm going to get into depth about some of these points going forward. So I'm actually going to start off with the way this movie opens, because I think the opening crawl of Episode 1 is definitely one of those things where it sets you up for what this movie is going to be about. Yes, there's going to be politics in it. The opening crawl says so. There's a trade dispute on Naboo. There's a blockade, and it's the big thing in the Galactic Senate right now. The whole, do they want to tax trade routes or give in to the Trade Federation and give them weapons on their ships so they can defend themselves and stuff like that. It's actually a very important political thing in the the Star Wars world, because it's so important to Palpatine's plan, and I think that's the reason. I think the main reason I like the opening trilogy more than the second trilogy is because Palpatine's plan is so complex. He's always in the background. It's this mystery and stuff like that in the background of him always politically manipulating situations for him to get into position to bring the revenge of the Sith to fruition, because it's this long forged plan that they've been planning for like hundreds, thousands of years, and it's finally coming to fruition. And I love that. And here is one of the first major moves in that Revenge of the Sith, and that is Palpatine getting to the position of Supreme Chancellor, and how he does it. That's what the political side of this movie is about, and it's actually very important, and it's very clever how he does it, because Palpatine is from Naboo. Naboo is the place being blockaded. He's also Sidious, who is the one who ordered the blockade. So, right there and then, he's ordered a blockade to his own planet to basically put him in a position where he is given a lot of sympathy by the Senate. He's going to be one of the more popular senators. He's going to have a lot of attention on him. So when he then manipulates the Queen of Naboo, Padme, into basically giving a vote of no confidence to the current Supreme Chancellor, he's immediately ousted because he can't do anything because of stuff that Palpatine set up in the past, which you can find out about in books like Darth Plagueis, Cloak of Deception. He's set all that up, and he knows he's going to be the one voted the next Supreme Chancellor, and he's all the time manipulating Padme, the rest of the Senate and stuff like that, and he gets the position of Supreme Chancellor, and immediately with that has control pretty much of the whole Senate. The only thing in his way is really the Jedi and what they're doing. So Palpatine, really important part of this movie, and absolutely fascinating. And it's one of those things where I'm just kind of like, when people say they don't like the politics in it, I'm just like, they never really go crazy in depth into it. You just have to think a bit about it and how important it is to the grand scheme of Star Wars, and that's why I like it so much. I'll move from there into the Jedis. So I'm going to focus on Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, Master and Apprentice, in this movie. So Qui-Gon, in my opinion, when people talk first about Star Wars Phantom Menace, they always go, I hate Jar Binks as a new character, he ruins the movie. Well, I kind of counter that with, but this movie has Qui-Gon Jinn, and he's amazing, because he's definitely one of the best characters in this movie, because he's probably one of the best Jedi characters overall, because he's very different to the rest of the Jedi Order. He is the Jedi rebel, basically. He does not do things the way the Council want. He's very different. He believes in the living force, something that many of the Jedi don't seem to buy into at all. Not even Obi-Wan, who's kind of like his apprentice. And even that is a very interesting thing there. The difference in character between Master and Apprentice. Obi-Wan himself kind of is kind of at odds with his Master about his Master's behaviour, because he feels that if his Master just did things the way the Council wanted him to, he'd be on the Council, and that's kind of one of the things. He hates to see his Master kind of fail because he's trying to do things differently. But in the end, we all know that Qui-Gon is right. Pretty much everything Qui-Gon does, as much as the Council think it's wrong, is actually the correct thing. Because he's the one who wants Anakin to be trained. He realizes he's the one who sees the potential in Anakin, but it's the Council who place all these doubts in Anakin's mind. You're too old, and stuff like that. Especially Mace Windu. Going forward, you get that relationship between Mace Windu and Anakin that they don't like each other, and that plays directly into Episode 3 in that situation. The big thing that causes the whole Empire is Anakin basically helping Palpatine take out Mace Windu in Episode 3, and you see the roots of it here, at the start. They have no faith in Anakin at the start, just because he's too old. They're too most of the Council is too entrenched in their traditions, in their kind of Jedi order, as opposed to just going with the will of the Force, which is what Qui-Gon's all about. He's just like, yeah, the Order's great, that's a kind of organized thing, but we're all about the Force. The Force is telling me this kid is the one. So that's why I like Qui-Gon so much in this movie. And then Obi-Wan is also interesting because he's different to his Master. but at the same time, he's the Obi-Wan we all know, and Qui-Gon even says it, he has the potential to be even more wise than Qui-Gon. He's going to be a better Jedi than he was, and you see that throughout the movie that he is wise. He's just kind of he's still very young and he's still learning and stuff like that. He has to find the best of both worlds, where he has to at the same time have that kind of rebellious kind of intelligent side that his master had, but also kind of more the ordered side of things, where he's not as rebellious as his master. So it's a very interesting to see a learner Obi-Wan Kenobi and see where he is in the end in the original trilogy, because he makes a kind of Qui-Gon decision when he decides out of the blue to train a very old Luke Skywalker out of the blue. So that's really shows the development and how it starts here. Obviously, one of the big parts of the movie is the big duel at the end. And that's probably one of the reasons I love this movie so much, is that lightsaber fight at the end is just amazing. Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan versus Darth Maul. The choreography is amazing, and that's one of the main reasons. Lightsabers, I love lightsabers in Star Wars, but the lightsaber fighting in the original trilogy is just not that good. Compared to this is the Jedi and Sith fighting each other. It's fast paced because they have the Force, and it's less about every strike has to be a killing strike, but they know that they're going to block most of the strikes, so they have to break each other's guard down over time, and it works so well. Qui-Gon, as the older man in the conflict, is separated from Obi-Wan and is not allowed to use his style to the best ability because of where they are, and is killed by Darth Maul, which leads to this growing moment, I suppose, for Obi-Wan, where he just attacks Darth Maul, and that's just one of the best parts of the fight. Obi-Wan just steams after Darth Maul and cuts his lightsaber in half, and then obviously his kind of anger temporarily gets the better of him, and he's bested. He's knocked down the kind of generator shaft. But then we see Darth Maul, and what the Sith kind of their fault is, and that he's overconfident. He toys with Obi-Wan, doesn't dispose of Qui-Gon's lightsaber because he thinks he's gone, and Obi-Wan, clever, using a thing that probably Qui-Gon would have done, uses his master's lightsaber to kill Darth Maul, and that's him going from Padawan to Jedi Knight, and that's a great moment of development for him. I'm probably going on too long about these two moments, so I'm going to quickly cover some of the other stuff. Anakin in this movie, this movie actually does a really good job at showcasing Anakin as a special boy, that he has the Force, but he's not just this young kid who has the Force. He's in touch with it. He uses it in pod racing and is the only human who can do it. And that is amazing, because Qui-Gon definitely sees it. His mother knows it. And Qui-Gon is shocked to hear about like Anakin's virgin birth and stuff like this. And then the amount of faith that he puts in Anakin, where he basically puts the fate of the whole mission on Tatooine on Anakin winning this pod race. And you see Qui-Gon do things that none of the other Jedi would do. He bets with Watto and stuff like this. He takes all these risks and stuff like that, and that's why this movie is so good. It's different. Qui-Gon makes the movie for me. It's just so good. Then you see Padme throughout the movie in this weird situation where for most of the movie she's not actually the queen in terms of like dressed up as the queen. She is just one of the handmaidens. And then when you watch this movie for the first time, you realise that you don't really see it that much, but then you eventually get the reveal. Then when you watch it again, you see the person who's dressed up as the queen constantly looking at Padme, directing the conversation to basically get her handmaiden's opinion, ultimately getting the handmaiden, who is Padme, who is the actual queen, to decide on everything. And she shows how much she cares for her people throughout this movie, and also that she can fight for her people too at the end. And there's obviously the setup of the relationship between Anakin and Padme on Tatooine, and it's all really good. The pod race scene is stunning, pretty much. The way it's animated, the way it's edited together, it's just an amazing action set piece, and it's an action set piece in Star Wars that is not crazy dramatic. It's not really intense like many of the Star Wars one. It's a racing scene. There's a lot of, I suppose, tension behind that if Anakin will win or not, but it's a sporting event, and it's a very interesting thing that I like. Kind of like with Avatar, the way pro bending was so exciting because it wasn't a fight where your heroes were going to get killed all the time, but it was a sporting event and it kept the excitement but without the massive tension and stuff like that. So it was cool. Okay, I'll cover Jar Jar now. I personally have never really had an issue with Jar Jar Binks because that's the way the Gungans are. Most of them are like that. Captain Tarpals is the other Gungan, and he's pretty eccentric too. He's just a bit more kind of like normal compared to Jar Jar, who's a bit of a goof. But I think Jar Jar works throughout this whole movie to have this kind of guy who's just completely unused to the galaxy and doesn't expect anything bad to happen to him and is constantly in need of people helping him. But in the end, he's actually really helpful in the whole movie. He's the one who basically allows Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon to save the Queen. He's the one who ultimately allows them to infiltrate the palace at the end and capture Nute Gunray because he tells them about the Gungan army, and in the end is actually pretty good in the battle despite it being kind of his clumsiness that actually helps them out. He's I suppose the main issue is that a lot of the lines try to make him funny, but not all of them work. I think there is a lot of funny moments, like the fact that he says "excuse me" instead of "excuse me" is I find that funny. It's just a bit of humor that in his lines, and he just kind of works as this kind of character that they just happen to bring around with him. Like Obi-Wan kind of says it best, like another one of these like helpless life forms, and then in the end he's not helpless. He really helps them out. So I don't mind Jar Jar Binks that much. He's just there. Like I don't love him. I don't hate him. It's just like okay, Jar Jar. He's fine. I don't think I have that much else to talk about with regards to the Phantom Menace. Just kind of thinking about the rest of the scenes. I suppose Darth Maul. I'll cover Darth Maul himself. I suppose there's this interesting situation in that it's Sidious's apprentice is Darth Maul, but throughout this whole movie, it's actually Sidious himself is an apprentice. His master Darth Plagueis, who's referenced in episode 3, is actually still alive for most of the movie, although it's never said. We had to read the book Darth Plagueis to find this out, but his master basically is alive up until probably around the last 2-3 scenes, where kind of in the Darth Plagueis book there is basically a scene where you would put it in between like the death of Darth Maul and the next scene, where he and Palpatine and Sidious basically, Palpatine and Plagueis celebrate basically him becoming the Supreme Chancellor, and at this moment he kills Plagueis and then becomes the Master. So there's that as well. That just adds so much to it. Like, this movie's good, but if you read Darth Plagueis, you're going to get so much more out of this because it goes super in depth about Palpatine, who, as I've said, Palpatine and Qui-Gon are just the big things in this movie, and I just like this movie a lot because it has action, has fun, and stuff like that. Is there anything else I want to mention? Do I have any issues with this movie? I suppose maybe it does get a bit too politicsy with the constant cutting back to the Nemoidians trying to get the people left on Naboo to sign the treaty, and they really say that's the whole thing. Sign the treaty a lot. Well, they didn't really need to go back to it, like, because the opening crawl kind of explained it well enough, and they were explaining it well enough through the Jedi, kind of saying stuff. So, it's not a perfect movie, but I honestly don't understand that much why people hate this movie. But yeah, it's if I was to rank it amongst the prequel movies, I'd put this as my second favorite prequel movie. I'm not going to spoil which comes first or third, but this is probably my second favourite of the episodes 1, 2, and 3. So that's been my review of this movie. Definitely comment below with your own thoughts on The Phantom Menace, and I suppose your own thoughts as well on, do you prefer the prequel movies or do you prefer the original movies as well? So thank you for watching this review, and bye.